privileged because they were considered most useful in providing recreation and entertainment that maintains the political stability of the population. And from then on, we were told, Hong Kong people doesn't care about anything. Hong Kong people are so apolitical. Hong Kong people does not care about culture. Hong Kong is a culture desert. All they want is prosperity and stability. If you are born and raised in Hong Kong, you would hear that year over year. And if they repeat it many times, people start to believe in that. And clearly, culture was understood narrowly as recreation and entertainment. 文娛康樂嘅娛樂就係文康。So to circumscribe culture within the realm of activities that are non-critical, non-analytic, tame, and unreflective of current socio-political issues. So, and government would actually subsidize events that fall into these criteria, and not subsidize events that are more critical, that is a lot more reflective content. So cultural policy is thus a matter of ideological sanitation, or you could say soft censorship, right? Not outright censorship, but soft censorship, understood as a political health issue for the government. And cultural activities are thus understood as cultural tranquilizers to distract and divert attention from political heat. And literally, it is a cultural policy of diversion in response to the local history of frequent uprising, demonstrating, and protest. And in fact, Hong Kong has never stopped being that. After 1997, figures from the government, right, not by my own guess, for the first 3 years after 1997, there is an average of 3 demonstrations per day in Hong Kong. And in the 3 years before Tong Chee-hwa go out of office, for 3 years, there was an average of 6 demonstrations and protests in Hong Kong every day. And hopefully somebody would do research about the years before that. Hong Kong has never been quiet. It's about a consensus to care about it or not care about it happening. It's about a consensus in the mass media to report or not report about those things in big or small scale. Right? So this is part of a longer history of colonial cultural policy that we see the picture today. So Hong Kong as a cultural desert is a policy result. It is not an essence of the Hong Kong people. And there are certain policies and policy papers you can research on if you want to, that gives you a process of this development. For example, the Council for the Performing Arts was established in 1982, indicating the government's policy leaning on the performing arts at that time. The Hong Kong government also set up the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. There is no Hong Kong Academy for Visual Arts. There is no Hong Kong Academy for Literature. Okay? But for the Performing Arts, which is established 2 years later, 1984, to provide professional training in performing arts and related disciplines. And that's why we have the 10 biggest performing arts groups in Hong Kong now, that the government would pay, that's 18 months. In English, $18 million per year for the 10 big performing arts groups, whether they perform well or not, whether they have an audience or not. Now, there is also the Department of Broadcasting, Culture, and Sport. Right? So, broadcasting, the media, culture, and sports put together to continue to emphasize on performing arts. The literary arts, visual arts, sculpture, local art, culture, art criticism, art education were largely neglected and left to the effort of the practitioners. Western performing arts imported without local educational mediation also alienated the local population from cultural activities. if you do not coordinate education with provision of these performances, the local population don't know how to appreciate them. And also you need to learn those foreign languages first, right? You need to know Italian to go to an Italian opera. And over the years, cultural participation therefore dropped because it's disconnected with the local population through what kinds of programs are actually offered, and also because there's no mediation through education. So at first, people's participation and attendance was much higher, but then over the years it dropped. Thus, the fact is not that the government has no cultural policy. It has a clear push and pull strategy. But that its cultural policy strategy is one that sacrifices cultural intensity and diversity and quality in return for a commercially dominated and performing arts dominated culture of passive audience-ship. So meanwhile, culture is also consistently put under the control of the executive branch of the government. Officially important Western high art lacks local character, but they are provided through the government system. And there is also a turn of culture towards entertainment and commercialization. And more involving the market, right, to produce entertainment that is profitable. And profit becoming more and more the sole criteria of production, slowly discouraging the experimental and creative capacities of local talents. And also standardization becomes a more and more dominant trend. And there is no consistent policy to support and incubate emerging local talents. Even if there were some talents, their development are heavily crippled. And as a direct result of such cultural policy choices, the stigma of Hong Kong as a cultural destination gradually sink in. And if not for those artists and cultural workers who persist and insist on Hong Kong's cultural pursuits on their own, the situation would have been even worse or even more biased. Now, we come back to our major class project, right? The West Kowloon Cultural District is going to be another spectacular project that integrates a short-term quick fix for tourism and local cultural sanitation. What should Hong Kong people do? And I see this as part of a continuation of the old policy and not a big departure from it. If Hong Kong people were to really decolonize their culture and cultural policy, then the first step is to exit from the colonial imaginary of culture. What is that? What is a post-colonial cultural imagination? What is a post-colonial culture? That includes a belief that culture is the sum total of people's lived experience. It belongs to everyone, and everyone should have a say about Hong Kong's cultural past, present, and future. If we don't want things to be the way I have just described, if we don't want Hong Kong cultural policy to continue this colonial trend, we need to live out our own idea of what Hong Kong cultural policy should be like, what decolonized cultural policy for Hong Kong should be like. Now, if we were to do that together as a class, we need to ask ourselves, not just on the policy level of the whole of Hong Kong, but also how specifically we execute some of these ideas. So you might start to begin to choose a topic you really want to work on. And some of you who have formed tutorials with Dr. Ng have started to form groups, presentation groups, and I'll